So we're going to have a look at the dictation tool that they've added to the Microsoft 365 version of Word. So the first thing to try and understand is where this tool exists and where it doesn't. So where it exists is in the online version of Microsoft 365. I've got a link here, but you can search Google for your login, bring you to the sign in page. This particular portal is quite good at keeping you signed in, but if you do have to log in, it's the same process as you use to log into Case Ratio Online now, and indeed Case Ratio Offline if you've logged out, because we've consolidated all of the login processes. So that will bring you to the Microsoft Office 365 homepage, and you've got a list of various applications down the left, and we're going to be dealing with this version of Microsoft Word, which is the online version of Microsoft Word. However, before we do that, we're just going to check the settings, because your default setting is likely to be to English US, and we need to change that to English UK. So if we come over to the settings in the top right hand corner, and if we change your language, if we drop this down here, we'll get the option to change the display language. And if we search English, we'll get the different options. We want English United Kingdom, which we can then select, and if necessary update. It is asking then for you to log out and log back in order for those language settings to take effect. I'm not going to do that because I've already got the correct language setting, but you will have to log out and then log back in order for that language change to take effect. So back on my Office 365 homepage, we've already opened this tab relating to the online version of Word, but just a quick word about where this dictation tool does not exist. So for example, it does not exist directly within Outlook, neither does it exist within the desktop version of Word 2013 that most of you have. It only exists in this one place within the online version of Microsoft Word. Now that is a limiting factor in terms of how useful it's going to be, but as we'll see, we can use it as a place where we can simply dictate text and then obviously copy and paste if we need. The other thing to say about this online version of Word is that when we're working in Case Ratio and we open a document, there are currently two settings. One setting is to open using the desktop version of Word, but the default setting for people who haven't changed it is to open documents in a browser window, and that browser window uses a tool called Dev Express, which some people don't get on with so well. It's not as good as Word by any means. Going forward, hopefully by the end of November 2020, we hope to have integrated this version of online Word with Case Ratio. So if you're creating a letter within Case Ratio Online, you open the letter, it should be this version of Word is opened for you to be amending your document, and you should therefore be able to dictate directly into those documents very soon. So I'm going to open a new document, and once this tab has loaded, on the right hand side we can see this dictate tool. If we click the dictate button before we start talking to it, let's have a look at some of the other settings. So under this settings wheel, we can see the default language. This is defaulting now to English UK because I've previously changed the settings as we've already dealt with. I would probably avoid using auto punctuation. I found it to be quite aggressive. So if you pause for a moment, you'll find a full stop in a sentence where you don't want one, but you'll certainly want the voice commands ticked in order to be able to dictate punctuation, etc. Then certainly when you're starting out, it's probably a good idea to open the help function on the right hand side of the screen. And the key thing under the help is probably to get started with things like the punctuation. So the punctuation will give you the phrases that you need in order to punctuate your document. They're reasonably intuitive: full stop, comma, question mark, exclamation mark, new line as opposed to new paragraph, apostrophe S, colon, semicolon, open quotes, close quotes, perhaps slightly less easy to use. Open parentheses, close parentheses for your curly brackets. If you use open bracket, close bracket, you'll get a square bracket instead. And there's some other symbols that you may find useful in your dictation. I certainly tend to use backslash, forward slash, but probably the rest of those are less common. Once you get involved into sort of advanced usage, you can use voice commands to add formatting to the document as well. So the example it gives here, you can bold, italicize, underline. So say we were dictating review by tomorrow at 5 p.m. and then if we say bold tomorrow, it would then bold that individual word in that sentence. And you can try commands like bold last word or underline last sentence, but we're probably getting into more advanced usage. Probably best to get used to just some of the basics in the first instance, using some of the basic punctuation commands. So once we've got a sense of how the dictation works, we can click the dictate button, and then, providing we are relatively clear with our diction, we should get a pretty reasonable transcript in terms of accuracy, and also we should expect the accuracy to improve over time, full stop. Okay, so I've paused the dictation there, and it seems to me I got 100% accuracy on that particular sentence. That doesn't happen all the time by any means. And you can see here when we come to editing, there's already some underlining under some of these words. And these are giving you alternative selections, part of the learning process. So if we click to, the 2 we've got here to improve is correct, so we can ignore that. Here I've said over time. Unfortunately, it's not giving us the option that we might prefer. In this case, if I click this one here, it's going to give me overtime as one word and then full stop as 2 words. So I'm going to ignore that, but actually probably what I meant to say was over time with a space. So sometimes the suggestions are helpful, other times not, and you will need to simply edit the document as you'd expect to do if your typing was poor. So let's go back to some dictation hyphen and put in some additional punctuation marks, exclamation mark. You can see that the dictation is continuing to work, and comma, adding the punctuation marks that I dictate, backslash, always with the risk that the accuracy will never be 100%, full stop. However, comma, if your typing is poor, you should hope to get a better speed by using voice dictation and then later amending the document as opposed to simply typing it from scratch, full stop. Okay, again, we can see that we've got a reasonable level of transcription there. Certainly some things that we would need to amend manually. That's likely always to be the case. But then let's go to the next stage. So obviously I've created this letter here in Microsoft Word online, and we've discussed the fact that this doesn't yet integrate with case ratio offline, although it will, and it doesn't integrate at all and probably never will with sort of various versions of Outlook. However, of course, you do just have text that you could technically pick up. And let's say you've got a field where you wanted that text to go, you can obviously just paste that text in. So what you can do is you can keep a tab open for dictation, and you need to be careful about this because you don't want to override that tab, so you need to create a new tab. So say I want to work in case ratio online, or I'm really concerned about the result of the American election, I want to go onto the BBC. Provided I leave this tab open, I can always come back to this tab for the purposes of dictation. I can then stop the dictation, take my text and I can put it into my field in case ratio online, my email, or any other Word document that I'm working on offline. Yeah, I can move it wherever I want it to go. So I simply use this tab as a repository where I come back to the page, comma, dictate, full stop. Then I copy, comma, paste the information, and then repeat the process for wherever I need text that I would rather dictate than type, full stop. So that's the Office 365 dictation tool.